Now we'll take a look at a level 4 organization. In the training module, you've been looking at a level 3. If you just viewed the last video, that was of a level 2 organization, poor health, and now we go to a level 4 organization, which is moderate health. Okay? And so again, you could take a look at this brief description at the top of page 3. Workers experience this organization as a positively paternalistic, parental-led organization characterized by a moderate level of trust and trustworthiness, along with occasional uncertainty and fear. Creativity is encouraged as long as it doesn't move the organization too far beyond the status quo. Risks can be taken, but failure is sometimes feared. Goals are mostly clear, though the overall direction of the organization is sometimes confused. Leaders often take the role of nurturing parent, while workers assume the role of the cared-for child. Remember the training that we did, I believe back in session 1 or session 2, when we looked at the parent-adult-child model, and the fact that an Org 3 and an Org 4 are operating with paternalistic leadership. Org 3, more of a negative paternalistic leadership, and Org 4 is more of a positive paternalism. And actually, the difference, too, as you get into the moderate health, and this also could be called good health. We haven't gone so far as to stretch that, but Org 4 organizations are good organizations. They have not yet entered into that paradigm shift of what it means to be truly servant-oriented, servant-led, that creates the excellent health of an Org 5. But an Org 4 is a good organization, and one thing that we encourage is when talking to these organizations that we affirm them, and we affirm the positive. As you can see, there were 21 respondents in this organization, 2 top leaders, 3 management respondents, and 16 workforce. Okay, we'll bypass the executive summary. This sheet here on page 5 we're familiar with. Again, it's what is being assessed with the OLA. And this shows the 6 characteristics ranked highest, in this case shared leadership, to lowest, in this case provide leadership. And that's of course going to draw an interesting pattern for us, which we'll see a little bit later when you have higher shared leadership and lower provide leadership. Okay? Here is the reason why they're a level 4. We see here that the workforce response falls pretty confidently within the level 4, though provide leadership is lower than shared leadership, and shared leadership is the highest. So it's kind of interesting. You can begin to see some variation, and certainly here in the provide share leadership, which takes you down to this key pattern at the very bottom. The relationship between the scores of provide leadership and share leadership indicate that workers are looking for more direction from the leadership. And that's something you'll always note in this particular, this part of the report, is that when shared leadership is higher, provide leadership is lower, workers are looking for more direction, more guidance, more leadership. Whereas when it's the opposite, and that's more normally the case, that it's the opposite, that provide leadership is higher, shared leadership is lower, that's when people are looking for more responsibility, more authority to act, to make decisions, and more responsibility to lead in the organization. Okay? Spend some time looking at an Org 4 description. As you can see, it's a positive description, certainly when comparing it to an Org 2 or even the Org 3. This is an organization that is moderate to good and is creating a pretty healthy situation, though it hasn't moved to the level, again, of an Org 5. But let's take a look just at the beginning here under the workers. Many workers sense they are valued while others are uncertain. People receive training in this organization in order to equip them to fulfill company goals. Workers are listened to, but usually it's when they speak in line with the values and priorities of the leaders. So you see, these are positive things, but there are qualifiers. There's still an element of fear, still an element of mistrust, and most of that's, again, because of this paternalism, that the leaders see themselves as higher than, separate from, talking down to patronizing the workers, though doing it in a positive way. I'm going to build you up. I believe in you, but not to the area where I would see you as a partner in this operation. Whereas those in a level 5 organization really see themselves as partners, the leaders and the led, and allow everyone in the organization to lead. And you'll be able to see that difference when you look at an org 4. Okay, again, we see this is a level 4 organization. This is the brief description that we already reviewed. Org 3 is just below it, and Org 5 is above. Now, one of the things to note is that there's really a pretty big paradigm shift right here between a 4 and a 5. And there's also quite a shift in thinking between a 2 and a 3. And really there's a way of thinking that needs to shift in the mind of the leader and in the culture of the organization, moving from an autocratic organization where the leadership is all about the leader, to moving it to where you need to take care of the workers, you need to provide for them, you need to support them. And that moves from a negative paternalism to a positive paternalism. But then there's a whole mind shift again, where now we begin to see that when we lead others, we lead them to serve them, but not as children. We serve them as fellow co-partners in this organization. Okay? Let's move on to the perception match, and you can begin to see how these are coming together. Very stark contrast between the Org 2 that we looked at and also the Org 3 that we've been looking at in this training session. There's still a perception gap, but it isn't huge. In fact, in some areas it's very close. Developed people, top leaders see that even lower than the managers. Interestingly enough here, the managers see the display authenticity lower than the workforce. And we're going to see this in a future video that we look at what happens when managers are below the workforce. But this particular organization does give us some important things to look at. We see some similarities in the first two, some perception gap, not big in build community, but more so in display authenticity. Here's an agreement that they have and provide leadership. This is certainly an area to focus on with this group because they all tend to agree, even the top leaders, that we need more direction, we need more guidance, we need more vision shared in this organization. Shared leadership is seen high by all. So there's some good things to look at, but this is one of the organizations where you will be helped by looking at the detailed report at the end of the new OLA revision. Here's the perception match for organization and leadership. The leaders see the organization more positively than themselves. Managers are the opposite view, and workforce is somewhat opposite as well, seeing the leadership more positively than the organization. This would be something to talk about here, looking at the management scoring right on the edge between an Org 3 and an Org 4 related to the organization. It'd be interesting to raise that discussion to see what might be behind that scoring. Now this is interesting here on job satisfaction. Generally the top leaders were above everyone else in their perceptions, but of the 6 key areas of organizational health. But here they're below and actually need improvement in job satisfaction. And I think this is one of the areas that the top leaders will need to take a look at and discuss why is the job satisfaction lower. And sometimes when this occurs, there is a huge amount of stress on top leaders. And this is stress that managers and the workforce don't see day to day. But it's sometimes revealed in the OLA when top leaders are honest and they speak in the 6 areas right down here at the bottom of the page, the 6 areas that each person is assessing for job satisfaction, and they score those low. because they're not sure that they're really feeling good about their contribution to the organization, that they're working at a high level of productivity. And so this may be an area for the top leaders or the ones they report to, from, like the board, for instance, to take a look at. Managers are doing pretty well, and workforce also are in a good range for job satisfaction. Okay, we then look at readiness for change. We're actually at a moderate to good, and so this is encouraging. You want to encourage this organization that there's a moderate to good readiness for change. Workers and leaders possess a sufficient level of energy for pursuing change, which suggests that an ability exists to improve in the 6 key areas of organizational health. So, though this organization is in a pretty good situation, a level 4, they obviously want to improve. They want to move to a level 5, and this suggests that they have good energy as an organization to pursue that. All right? Then we can take a look at the detailed report, and you can go down and begin to see some of the differences here that exist. For instance, here's top leaders that are low on "I feel appreciated by my supervisor for what I contribute to the organization." Interesting score where the top leader is the lowest in that area and may need some attention. Here's a low one for the managers. People in this organization respect each other. A very much a lower response than the workforce and the top leaders. And it may suggest an issue that exists between the managers and the top leaders. That's something to discuss when you get with them. Here's another example of that. People in this organization trust each other. I would pay attention to this because it's lower than the workforce, quite a bit lower than the top leaders. And my best guess is that there's an issue here between managers and top leaders that would need to be discussed. Okay? So as you look at the detailed report, it's going to give you a chance to isolate some specific target areas for improvement. Okay, let's continue on down. We're looking there at develop people. Shared leadership was the highest. Let's look at provides leadership because that was the lowest. And you can see here again there's quite a level of agreement between top leaders, managers, and workforce. Here's one here. It would be interesting to have a discussion on number 49. Leaders in this organization communicate clear plans and goals for the organization. Managers see that low. Workforce also in a level 3. And then top leaders not that much higher, almost to a level 4. There are meaningful differences here in, or actually agreement in this particular area. Let's in the area of shared leadership. So there are some things to work on certainly in that area. Something you don't see all that often, which is a pretty good level of agreement on shared leadership, that it is relatively high. And this particular organization allows people to make decisions, allows them to lead, allows them to act. Here's your job satisfaction. And again, here we can isolate a little bit where the top leader issue was. And here it says, number 64, I enjoy working in this organization. And the 2 top leaders scored that pretty low. Also relatively low is I'm able to use my best gifts and abilities in my job. So some discussion with the top leaders about these would be helpful. This might be a good opportunity to suggest executive coaching, discussions perhaps with the board of directors about job definition. Some of that may come from looking at that detailed report. Okay, here are the highest scores, and they're actually very strong. So you can see what everyone in the organization sees as strong. And here with the workforce, all in an Org 5, which is a servant-led area, they'll feel appreciated by supervisors, leaders encourage, receive encouragement and affirmation. I'm respected by those leaders in this organization do not demand special recognition. So good indications. Let's look at the lower ones. I'm assuming some of them will be down into a 2 and a 3. And this is useful because now you can isolate where the workforce sees the lower areas. The lowest is people in this organization know where this organization is headed in the future. this organization clearly needs to work on providing leadership, needs to work on visioning, needs to work on strategic planning. And you can identify through this part of the report a number of things that could be discussed and worked upon. But you can see this one is provide leadership, this one's provide leadership, this one's provide leadership. So 3 out of the 6 are from that one area. Okay, let's look at the perception match. Low and high. Actually start with the high. These are the areas that top leaders in the workforce are in exact agreement on. And here's where they differ. So you can begin to look at where the largest difference, this is the largest one. In shared leadership, people in this organization are encouraged by supervisors to share in making important decisions. Difference in that particular one. Okay, and also some more provide leadership areas. Okay, then we can look at the managers to the workforce agreement. Here at the very top are the highest perception match items, and then of course here's where they begin to differ. And the highest or the lowest perception match item is this one. Leaders in this organization encourage people to take risks, even if they may fail. And that's in a provide leadership category. And then finally, we look here, and this is going to be important. We saw that there are some differences between managers and top leaders. And you see where the highest perception matches are, and then you can begin to see where the lowest. And what's very interesting here is the top 3, or we'll call it the lowest 3 perception matches are all display authenticity. And so that gives you a very clear pattern. People in this organization maintain high ethical standards. Well, huge disagreement between managers and top leaders. People in this organization demonstrate high integrity and honesty. Again, huge difference. And the third, people in this organization are trustworthy. Again, if I guessed at this, you'd have to enter into some conversation, get people to talk openly and honestly about this. But I believe the issues here are between the managers and the top leaders, and some open, honest, facilitated discussion needs to take place. So you can begin to see from this report how you can begin to lead this organization. Let's go back to that sort of key page. And here we are right here with the key perception match. You see that the difference here, when you look at the averages, it helps you. It gives you an idea of why this organization is a level 4. But in particular key areas, if we go on down to the bottom of the report, right here between, as we look at managers and top leaders, you can begin to see the level of detail that's going to help you as the consultant to identify target areas for improvement. And specific areas that might be a little touchy, you might need to deal with just with managers and just with top leaders. Okay, that concludes our review of a level 4 organization. And each report that you view is going to be different. And it's going to be unique. And but this gives you a feel of what an Org 4 looks like.